Hello there, Nat Edwards and Riley Beveridge with you. We'll be keeping it simple thanks to AHM Health Insurance as we unpack the AFL's latest fixture release, and we have round 7 for you now exclusively.
Beautiful.
Exciting news, Riley. We had round 6 drop last night, and let's take a quick glance at both of the fixtures now before we go into more detail. But why have only 2 rounds been released at this point?
Well, we know the way they're doing the fixture this year, and we know that the AFL have to be as fluid and as agile as possible because there's so many moving parts to it. We've seen only recently the West Australian government relax some of its restrictions. We know that fans will be able to attend games at Optus Stadium. We saw South Australia do that right on the eve of the season as well, meaning that the showdown could be played in round 2. So a lot of moving parts to the season. With that changing more rapidly now and more quickly, and we've seen what's happened as well in Victoria where there's been more cases of COVID-19 recently, whether or not there has to be on standby there. Only a 2-week fixture makes sense. It allows the AFL more agility and more flexibility later in the season. It allows them to move pieces around here and now, and then again in 2 weeks' time when we get the next block of fixtures.
Well, let's make things simple for our viewers out there. A lot has been made of the Queensland hub, the Eagles, Dockers, Crows and Power. They actually have to stay up there for 1 more week in round 6, and then the WA teams can go home.
They can. They're going home in round 7, which is a great result for them. They'll obviously play the Western Derby on that Sunday night, and 60,000 fans will be able to go into Optus Stadium for that.
Isn't it?
So Mark McGowan, the WA Premier, said from this Saturday that grounds in Perth and Western Australia can be at 50% capacity. Then from July 18, grounds can be at 100% capacity. That game's currently scheduled for Sunday, which is July 19, which means we'll be able to get 60,000 in there, which is absolutely fantastic. We know the WA teams, they can do their quarantine at home. So they've given them that restriction, not in a hotel, which is what a lot of the Victorian sides that we think we're going to have to go over there later in the year are going to have to do. So that's a big win for them. Adelaide and Port Adelaide are going to have to stay in the hub for round 6. They'll then both have round 7 games in Victoria.
Interesting, isn't it?
So it's not necessarily they're going to have to stay in the hub for a bit longer, because then we don't know if they'll be able to go back to South Australia in round 8. Another interesting side note, going back to the WA teams, is that they'll have the round 6 games, which are in the Gold Coast hub, will both be home games for West Coast and Freo. So it's a bit of a shame for them. And then the double blow for the Dockers is that the round 7 derby will be a Fremantle home game. So it means they lose 2 home games later in the season. That's a bit of a blow for them.
Certainly, and Carlton will have to travel to the Gold Coast, so they're going to actually join that hub in round 7, and then Melbourne and GWS actually go up to Queensland in round 6, so a little bit of movement in that area. Yeah,
we've seen that throughout the fixture. We know that Gold Coast obviously will come down to Victoria to play Geelong in round 5, so they'll obviously then have Carlton go up, Melbourne will go up, as you said, GWS will go up, so a lot of clubs going through that Gold Coast hub.
Not only that, but we also have a WA hub. That's in round 7. We have 2 Victorian teams playing a game at Optus Stadium. It's a little bit interesting.
It is. So they'll play on the Friday night in round 7 at Optus Stadium. And the way it'll work up there, obviously, is they'll have to quarantine for their 2 weeks. They'll have to do it in a hotel, as WA Premier Mark McGowan said. Now, they'll be able to play each other while they're quarantining. They won't be able to play the 2 WA teams, but they'll be able to play each other. So that's massive for them. That's why that game between Geelong and Collingwood will be in Perth. Once they've finished their quarantine, that's when they'll play Fremantle and West Coast in WA. We're expecting that to be rounds 8 and 9. We're not 100% certain on that yet. It's just what we're expecting now. Then they'll come back to Victoria, and another 2 Victorian teams will fly in there.
And they'll be able to play in front of a crowd.
They will be. That game's on the Friday night, though, so the 100% capacity comes in on the Saturday, so only 30,000 will be able to go to that game.
And I know we only have the next 2 rounds at the moment, but who is the big winner out of this little block that we've got now?
There's been a lot of victories for Gold Coast recently. They've got 2 on the trot in the resumed season, and they'll have 2 primetime games. So they'll play Hawthorn on a Saturday night in round 6, and then Carlton on a Saturday night in round 7. That Carlton game is on free-to-air television as well.
Excellent news for the Suns.
So anyone who doesn't have Foxtel will be able to tune in and watch Matt Rowell play, which is a joy to behold, I can tell you that much.
Oh, he is an absolute star of the game at the moment. There you have it. Footy made simple thanks to AHM Health Insurance. Make sure you keep clicking back to afl.com.au and the AFL Live official app for all of your footy news.